Welcome to Get Real. We're so excited you're joining us today for another engaging conversation. The last months have tested our resilience as business owners as COVID continues to force us into a virtual work situation, interrupting life as we knew it, presenting challenges for leaders across the board. We know that today's environment is increasingly creating issues for employee engagement and is becoming an issue. Joining us today are Mark Iorio and Al Cini of BCAT Partners to discuss their proprietary tool, which addresses employee engagement. Mark, Al, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome.
She just called me a proprietary tool.
You?
Me?
I've called you way worse than that, man.
Way worse,
yeah.
To my face. It's great to be here.
Great to be on the show. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're very happy that we're able to have you in the earlier shows. We've just started this journey, so we appreciate you.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, good.
So, gentlemen, you've created this fascinating tool, the BCAT,
Right.
Brand and Culture Alignment Tool. What was the reason for creating this assessment? What need were you fulfilling?
Well, we had two reasons. I mean, my reason was my background is project management. And the real challenge of project management is to get a large group of people to care about getting something done. And there's really hardly ever, most of the work of project management is tracking and blaming. So the whole idea that somehow you need to inspire people has been sorely neglected, which is one of the reasons why maybe 2/3 of projects fail or fail to deliver on their promises. So for me, BCAT was a journey to try to inspire people to become committed to the end result they're working on as part of a project team. And Mark, when we got together,
Yeah, before I met Al, we were doing a lot of brand and culture alignment within organizations. We called it internal branding, but the process took forever. It was a very tedious process and it was very subjective. We would go through and interview dozens and dozens of people and talk to them about how they felt about a brand. And we would get into a room and sort of put into a word pile or a theme pile, a number of themes that were consistent throughout the interviews. And when Al and I met, over 7 years ago, he had developed this tool, the beginnings of what BCAT is, and it really shortened the whole process. It made it so, first of all, it was scientific because what we were doing was much more qualitative. What BCAT does is much more quantitative and qualitative. So it brought both sides of the equation together, and
it takes like a 2-month thing and turns it into a 15-minute thing.
Yeah.
So we get remarkably insightful and revealing results in an hour or two, where a lot of market research programs will take months to get the same information. Right. Maybe never even get there.
Right.
So
you mentioned getting people in the room. Mm-hmm. Who was in the room?
You mean on the client side?
Only management?
No. And I'm really glad you asked that question. I knew I could count on you to ask a great question.
I'm here for you, Al.
I knew it. One of the problems I think that a lot of management consultants have is that they primarily play to an audience that is in the C-suite. So most of those strategy sessions are about the bosses.
Right.
Everybody in the company knows that those strategy sessions are going on. It's not a secret. And everybody's waiting for some of that to leak out to them and change their lives. And it never does.
It never does.
And that is another really key point of BCAT. Brand and culture alignment means aligning everybody in the organization, from the people who started the company all the way down to the people who answer the phones and mop the floors. Because every human, every person in the organization is a contributor, and their voice needs to be heard. Yeah. And we do that. So it could be everybody.
We're in COVID, and employee engagement and leadership is so important now more than ever. So how does BCAT help drive that?
Tell me about that study.
It's interesting that you asked that question, Meg, because there was a study done by Gallup recently where there was a spike in employee engagement. It went up to 37% or something like that. And then right after that, about a month later, they did the same survey, and it dropped back down below where it was prior to. Now, they do the State of the American Worker every 4 years. Gallup does. And generally speaking, their employee engagement numbers across the United States are about 31%, so give or take. And after we go through a BCAT process, and by the way, we've done about 8,500
We have 8,500 data points.
Wow.
in BCAT. So these are statistics that go on and on, right? We've gone pretty deep. We could take an organization that has about a 30% engagement to over 64%.
Wow.
That means that everyone in the organization is now engaged in the work that they do. And it doesn't really matter, Meg, where they are. So
Right.
once they put that company hat on, whether they're in front of their computer, in their home office, or they physically go to their office, their physical office, their bricks and mortar office, they still believe in the same core values or purpose or role target or North Star that we get them to with BCAT.
I was really glad you found that research because, you look at it and you say, well, after COVID, everybody all of a sudden became more engaged in their work. And then a month later, boom, everybody dropped like a stone, actually below where they were before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I think I know what that was. I think a lot of people had high hopes that their organizations were going to get it. And so engagement kind of went up as people were waiting to see what their leaders were going to do to respond to this. And it dropped when they realized that they weren't changing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when you
And,
say get it, what do you mean by get it?
Getting that, I work here, I need to be a part of this organization, I need to be listened to, I need to do more than just show up, collect a paycheck, I need to have value.
Right.
And that's what employees are looking for from their managers. And it's the last thing they get. They get money, they get daycare centers, they get all kinds of perks and bennies. The last thing they get is a sense of purpose.
Yeah, and it's not a ping pong table or a foosball table in the break room. It's not.
Right.
It's not pizza parties. It's not, trips out on on the lake together. It's not that. It's really engaging in what interests that particular employee, what they want to engage in within that organization. And once we show them that this is your North Star, this is the North Star of the organization, everyone rows in that same direction
Right.
by committing to things that they want to change to get closer to that North Star.
And you made a great point too. So how am I, as I sit in this desk, this cube, this office, affecting change, or how is my work becoming a part of really the value of the organization, the
Right.
culture of the organization?
Yep.
Am I
Exactly.
being challenged in a positive way to make a difference? No matter what my job is, no matter what my salary level, whether I've been here for 25 years or just started last week.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you
get
have to
amazing
know
results
where
when
you're
you do
going.
that.
You have to know where you're going as an organization,
Right.
right? And that's the key, I think.
It's overwhelming to me that there's this, what seems to be, it's not simple, but a simple tool, and how you identify all of the members within the organization. And it's literally when you are, getting out of your car in the morning or pushing the elevator button, when you are getting ready to sit down at your desk, that you are a valued employee and that you absolutely know what your purpose is for the overall mission of the organization. What is overwhelmingly horrible to an employee is the rote coming in, doing their job. We know that those conversations are going on in a conference room, but we're never brought into those. And everyone has an opinion or a thought to improve something, to make it better. And until those questions are being asked of everyone, we're not all going to be in the same boat. We're not all going to be rowing in the same direction.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm really glad you use those analogies. We hear, are you rowing in the same direction? Is your whole team rowing in the same direction? Or, when you see an organization that really has it together, you say things like, boy, those people really drank the Kool-Aid. And
Yeah.
in fact, in an earlier version, while we were testing our product, we called it the Corporate Kool-Aid Cookbook because the goal really was to
That's
try to
funny.
identify what the 4 flavors were in the water cooler of the company. And I mean, that was the early precursor of the model that we developed. So what we now have is a system that will tell an organization what flavor of Kool-Aid they serve in their water cooler. Get everybody in the organization to develop a taste for it. When they gather around the water cooler, what they're really doing is drinking their brand and culture.
Right.
And when you're going to work in the morning, and Mark mentioned putting on that hat, you've got a glass of it in the cup holder of your car, whether you know it or not. You're becoming the person you need to be successful successful where you're going. What we do is articulate that, clarify that, and make that so obvious and so engaging that people just sort of naturally fall into it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we do it virtually.
Right, okay.
Don't need to see people in person.
No.
I mean, we have partners that we're working with in India. We've got a partner in Australia. Time zones are challenging,
Yes.
but if you can manage to wake
Waking
up at 3 in the
early
morning,
or staying up very late.
if you can do that, and they do that too, they cooperate with us. All this could be done via Zoom.
Wonderful.
Wow. Mark, are there other tools that are comparable to BCAD or, you know?
You know, Jean-Pierre, Al and I have studied this over
is
the
a
last.
fun one. I'm so glad you
we've
like
studied this over the last 7 years, and we have not uncovered a single tool that does exactly what BCAD does, and I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of tools that are individual tools, and we know who they are: the DISC,
Colby.
MBTI, Colby, Hogan, whatever it might be. Anything that really focuses on predictive index, that focuses on the individual, is different. It's very different than this. This focuses on the organizational North Star.
As though it were one person.
As though it were a single person doing its best work on its best day.
That's the key point.
That's
So
the
instead of
key.
thinking about yourself,
Right.
you're thinking about your collective self, what you're a part of. And what we get are data points back that tell us how far apart people's perceptions are of that, which is a real good indicator of how disengaged the workforce is. So, so we give you a number that tells you whether your people are actually rowing in the same direction.
Yep,
That's the fun of it.
makes sense.
It does. So how do these organizations struggle with marketing initiatives, especially that they've had to pivot? How does BCAT help an organization be more impactful?
So from a marketing perspective, Meg, what we do is we're able to, once we find the organizational North Star, right, there are attributes that each company has behaviorally, attitudinally, vocabulary or linguistically and visually, right? So what it helps with regard to marketing is that the language and the vocabulary and the visuals come out of this result, right? So, and what people have to understand is we're not creating robots here. We're creating a brand in an organization that everyone follows. Every stakeholder in the organization follows. If you think of the New York Yankees organization, you may or may not like baseball, you may or may not like the Yankees, but that organization stands for something specific. You go to work for them or go to play for them, it's not about the pinstripes, it's not about the interlocking NY, it's about the way they do business every day, right? So their language is similar. When you see someone from the Yankees being interviewed on television, they say a lot of the same things. Differently, it's their own individual spin on it.
Right.
All the visuals that you see are classy, visuals. Same with their website, same with their email, same with walking around the stadium, going to Monument Park. Imagine your organization like that, where all the marketing materials are similar. They're right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that analogy too, because the Yankees are kind of an example of it. What we do really with BCAT is we turn marketing upside down. Most marketing is about asking customers what they want and then trying to figure out how we can adapt to that. If you're a New York Yankee, you're a New York Yankee. If you don't want to watch the New York Yankees, you don't have to.
Right.
But the reason why so many people do is because they're the New York Yankees. Does that make sense at all?
No, it absolutely
If you don't
does.
stand for anything, I mean, really, then you have no business being in business.
Right.
So it's not just asking what is it we can do for you today. It's the proud expression of what it is we do that really appeals to a market, that gets the market to come to ask you questions and engage your services.
Yep.
Sure. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for more discussions with Al Cini and Mark Iorio.
Essentially, yeah.
Why buy local? When you shop with local businesses, you're spending your money on more than just the item you're buying. You're adding a building block to your neighborhood. It starts with a single purchase, maybe a cup of coffee, groceries from a local co-op, or even a shiny new bicycle from one of the nearly 28 million small businesses nationwide. Your money doesn't stay in the till for long though. Local business owners use the money to create a lot of economic activity in your neighborhood, like buying from suppliers, many of whom are also local businesses, paying taxes to the city, which builds and maintains the infrastructure we all rely on, employing local workers, contributing to 65% of the net new jobs each year. Add this all together and you've got a recipe for a happier, healthier, more connected neighborhood. Now that's an investment worth making.
Al, you were just talking about something that is a really good point, and you mentioned standing for something.
Yeah.
Let's expand upon that.
I mean, Mark and I talk about this all the time. Mark we recently had an opportunity to present in front of a not-for-profit, and their first instinct was, well, shouldn't we just ask our customers what they want from us? And our answer was, until you stand for something, you've got nothing to sell. So the first step really in the process of building a successful business is to understand the purpose of the business you built. So for example, you've got Beacon Partners, great firm, and we've worked together. Yes. We're going to keep working together. What I'm really impressed by with Beacon Partners is that while you have a focus on, let's say, financial services as a market, you stand for creativity, finding a new path, alternative solutions, and that's all part of the model we talked about. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of creativity in your mix. People who come to you are going to have to know that that's part of what you deliver. And if they don't want that, then they've got to go somewhere else. You can't adapt. That is who you are.
Right.
You can't change that. And that means you put people on a new path, and they need that from you.
Right.
You need to express that in everything you do.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the Yankees again, I mean, the Yankees don't go out and say to their fan base, hey, how do you guys want us to play? Or
how many home runs do you want today?
How do you want us
what
to
do you think of the lineup today?
What do you want us to look like? Or how do you want us to act?
Yeah.
They stand for something.
So the cotton uniform would never have fit.
Well, it might have fit when Babe Ruth was playing.
Maybe. Yeah, but no, I think that is fundamentally important. And even in organizations as small as a two-person partnership, that emotional agreement on who we are when we're partners. I mean, Meg is who she is when she wakes up. Genevieve is who she is. You are different people. But when you both put on that Beacon Partners hat, you become something more powerful than either of you.
Yeah.
And expressing that power is what appeals to a marketplace.
Yeah.
Right.
Organizations, when you have brought this tool to them, what has been their response? Talk about a particular situation where, really, I'm not going to, really, that's going to help, and then how you've transformed them and what their nirvana, oh, wow, this is now working so wonderfully.
Let me start by saying that part of the problem with anybody selling, not just us, but anybody these days, is that there is a kind of a systemic paralysis.
Yes.
There is a general feeling that no matter what I do is not going to work, and so why do anything?
Correct.
So we're not losing business to competitors. We're losing business to doing nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
People are just not doing anything.
We see that.
And so trying to communicate, and I think everybody in the service sector sees that. And we recently had a conversation with the president of a very large not-for-profit educational institution. And nobody is having more difficulty than education these days. Enrollments are down.
Yeah.
Grants in funding from states are way down because people are having a difficult time of it during COVID, as you pointed out in the beginning of the program.
Early retirements are being taken at record numbers.
Yeah.
We don't have teachers.
There is a big thing going on, and the result of it is paralysis. It's not that, but after we had these conversations, she agreed that a very fundamental addressing of that problem is to get back to the basics of the organization, define and clearly articulate the purpose of it, And, based on all our research, what we have is pretty much the only way you can do that scientifically.
By the nature of what BCAT does to Genevieve and Meg, we hear a lot about inclusivity and diversity and things like that. By the nature of our business, everyone in the organization is included in the process. We worked on many companies over the past 7 years, and one of them that comes to mind is an organization that is about a 100-year-old brand, and they were all over the place. They called us in and they looked at, they had about 3,500 employees at the time, and we came in and re-looked at their retail environment, and they had a brand that stood for something, right? But when you walked into their retail environment, it was a mess. Every one of their 45 locations was a disaster. But what we ended up doing is getting everyone on the same page, getting the brand ambassadors in the organization to start cross-selling and understanding what they did as a service for an organization. And they latched onto that North Star and said, this is who we are. And the president said to me one day, what do you think this is going to do for us? And I said to him, I believe, at some point you're going to have better relationships with banks. You're going to be able to merge with organizations because they look at you and they aspire to be with you or merge with you. The employees are going to become more engaged in the work that they do, and that's generally what we end up feeling when we go through a process.
Net
like
promoter
this.
scores go way up.
Yeah.
People feel better served by the companies that you do this in.
And as Al has pointed out dozens of times, when you start to look at engagement numbers rising, or the index of alignment in our case go up, productivity starts to go up in the organization, and then profits start to rise in the organization, and then lastly, value of the organization starts to go up, and we can track that.
Yeah, we can.
Trackable.
Growth rates
Yep.
have gone up. We track that ourselves.
And it's important for organizations to know, too, that if a certain vacuum, a lack of leadership is occurring within your organization, you need a tool like this, an assessment like this, to number one, know that, and number two, to really boost that engagement with your employees. Because if people know that they're working collectively toward a common goal, beyond just servicing your clients or customers, that what is the collective goal of the firm, the organization?
Right.
They have that direction, that North Star that you keep mentioning. I when I come in and I sit at my desk every day, I know what my goals are. I know, beyond doing these 5 things, I know that we're all pushing forward for the organization.
Yep.
That's key.
And making commitments every day to get better, to
become a
become
little
better than you were
Yeah.
yesterday, or to do things or behave in a way that gets you closer to that North Star.
The best meetings we've ever had, and we've had a lot of really good ones, the best meetings we've ever had were meetings where the receptionist or a secretary in the organization comes up with a commitment to be more aligned with that North Star that you talked about, that causes the CEO to add that to their list. I mean, I just learned from the person who answers the phones in my organization that there's something I can do to become a better shepherd, essentially a better servant of these people that I lead. And so it's kind of like servant leadership, except I've never really believed that servant leadership was about serving people. It's more about serving a purpose and then helping people accomplish that purpose. So that really is what that's about. When you set fire to an organization using this kind of kindling, you get some really amazing results, and amazingly quickly, too.
Yeah.
So we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. Talk to us about the process.
We'll give it away. I mean, you mentioned it's a proprietary process. The first step in our process is something we give away. Think about your whole organization as though it were a single person doing its best work on its best day to keep all of its promises and achieve all of its goals. So you start with that, what we call the incorporating question. You think about that. Instead of thinking about yourself, think about all of us. And who are we when we're keeping all of our promises? Then you go online and you answer about 15 minutes worth of questions to create a profile of that ideal. What we're really doing is creating a role model. Then a couple of hours later, we all get together over what we learned from that. We work with leadership generally to create what Mark refers to as a North Star, which is the role model who represents our best self on our best day. Now that we've got that, we have an alignment point. After that, it's just a matter of saying, what is it about that role model who is the best of us that I can be more like? What 2 or 3 things about the way that person behaves can I adopt in my day-to-day to be a better version of myself? And what you get back at from that is a huge list of commitments that ordinary people in the organization make, no matter regardless of rank, to becoming a better member of that team based on that team's role model. So it's conceptually, I mean, there's a lot of stuff under the hood, the proprietary part.
Right.
And we're proud of the science, because I think the science is what makes this work. When we facilitate from the numbers that come back from the process. It's not a guess, it's not a shoot from the hip. There's nothing artistic exactly about it. It's about, this is what you told us. We got this out of you.
Right.
What we're doing is giving this back to you and asking you to agree with it.
And that can be 3 team members or 300 team members.
It could be, depending on the organization.
And everyone in the organization is involved at the point in time where they all understand what that role target is, or that North Star is. They are all involved in then making commitments every day to get closer to that North Star. So we leave no one in the organization.
No one gets left out. Absolutely. And that one other point, when you get a result, the results you get for SEAL Team 6 are different from the results you get from the Girl Scouts of America.
Right.
Which is how it should be, because
Yes.
brand and culture are situational. You want to make sure that you're respecting the mission of the organization. And that's what makes it so comfortable.
So tell our audience how they can get started with BCAT.
I should call Mark.
Well, our phone numbers are listed on the website. It's www.getbcat.com. Al.Cini, C-I-N-I, at getbcat.com. Mark, M-A-R-K, Iorio, I-O-R-I-O, at getbcat.com.
And we have a toll-free number?
We have a toll-free
Wow.
number.
855-999-BCAT.
Wonderful.
Which is 2228. So
Very
we're very
easy.
easy to reach, and
Yeah.
we'll look forward to getting started with you.
Well, thank you both for joining us. This was a pleasure.
Thank
I'm
you,
sure
Meg.
that we
Thank
could
you,
have
Johnny.
continued
It was a lot of
the
fun.
conversation. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope that we've been able to provide you with some helpful information on how you can get your brand and culture aligned for your organization. See you next time.